And the nightmare is over. The Road to Survival Nightmare mode was just as challenging as last time, except there were significantly less stages in Bronze, Silver, Gold, Elite, and Legendary. Instead of having 50 stages, there was only 20 stages. And I know that the player base really appreciated not having to can a ton. Although the difficulty was still as high as ever, if not higher, I know a lot of people ended up finishing Bronze and Silver for those who cared to participate. A lot of cans and a lot of kits were used in order to overcome this nearly impossible challenge. I myself did not get even close to finishing this road. I ended up stopping in Elite at some point, because this is what one of the stages was like in Gold. I think the stage took me 9 minutes to complete on auto, so I put it on 2 times the speed so you don't have to look at all of that. But these tunes had major stat boosts, like 15,000 attack and defense, less HP I think, but in later stages I saw the stats get even higher, where the defense, HP, and attack were just crazy high. And although a lot of it did need thinking in order to create some sort of team to combat these super strong tunes, it was just kind of tedious. You just kind of left your phone on auto and hope for the best. My hero in Survival Road Nightmare mode was definitely Joshua. His rush just nerfed the opponent's attack so much that it allowed me to have time to revive tunes with Eric, use Garrett's bonus HP as well as his taunt so that I could keep bringing Shiva back in order to bleed and lacerate the opponent out. And then my Jesus shield also did a lot of work for me. I also used Magna and Koa as my shield. I swapped Eric as the lead at some point, but I just kept using my Lacerator Shiva in order to bleed out these very strong opponents. I know that some people ended up running SP, Triple Mia, and a tune like Dr. Stevens, for instance, and they just kept looping, and they maimed the other team to death. It became a little challenging, I think, when revivers came into play, but as far as I know, there were a handful of people who did end up completing this whole road, and with all perfect stars, actually. Now, I do like the idea of Nightmare Mode. I think it offers a new challenge to the game that a lot of players are missing, especially for Survival Road, because it hasn't been revamped in a very long time. I would like to see more daily missions, so like moving up past level 400, because I don't remember the last time I've done my daily Survival Road. I only do the tournament, and at that I usually fall behind, not because I can't finish it when it's not Nightmare Mode, but because I don't have the cans to keep going, and it's such a limited return when you redo a stage that I can't justify it. I wish the rewards for completing Bronze, Silver, Gold, Elite, and Legendary, for instance, were better. Because honestly, it just feels like everything's been scaled back. And we as the players have been asking for more and more because the prizes aren't very good. There's very little to no motivation to keep going because there's nothing worth our time to acquire. In War, we're hardly ever getting decent tunes. In level ups, there's no tune at the end anymore. In raids, I can't even remember the last time we had a full-on raid tournament. If you're not in TOC, then yeah, you have a raid tournament whenever we have a war. But I haven't raided in the past week, I don't think. And it's just because it's boring. So I can only imagine how deterring it is for new players who are starting out this game, because there's almost nothing you can get for free or by grinding at this point. You know, we see all these museum collections that are in the museum that cost money to accomplish. And as a new player, that would deter me from wanting to play this game. We really need more realistic, grindable events where we're progressing in some way, shape, or form. Right now, we have level up events, which take you, 10, 20 minutes in order to make your milestones. You have Survival Road, where, this last one for Nightmare Mode, a lot of people just didn't participate because it was a seemingly impossible task for many of them. We have Daily Survival Road, which I haven't touched in weeks, if not months, because I've reached level 400 on it and I have nowhere else to go. We have horde events, but half the player base, I would say, doesn't like it, and the other half does, but then we just don't get events for it. So there's not even a chance for players to learn how to play hordes properly and to have the time to really practice it. When we take a look at horde events, you can see that they're different than everything else on this game, but there's no way to practice unless you're actually in an event. Meanwhile, we have friendly raids, which help us practice not only for raiding, but for war as well. Even when they introduced Onslaught, Onslaught was kind of an extension of raids and war. It required strategy, but you had more time to think and to plan accordingly on how to maximize your points. Even on Nightmare mode, some people found unique strategies in order to progress across many stages, even though they only got 1 star sometimes. They would use 1-star tunes with reflect damage weapons. Another strategy that I heard of was going back to an easy stage, so Bronze 1 for instance, bringing in the team you plan on running on the next stage that you're struggling on and charging your rushes in it so that you start off that difficult stage where the tunes are super buffed up with your full rushes, which can be the difference between a win or a loss. Because if I was able to start with Joshua with his full rush, that means all enemies now have less than half of their normal attack, and that gives me time in order to whittle away at their HP and bring them down to a more manageable level. I would love to hear some other strategies that you may have used on Nightmare mode. I know that a lot of people didn't end up finishing even Bronze, so if that was you, don't feel bad. There was a lot of players who just didn't see it worth their time, and to be honest, with the reward structure the way it is, I completely understand why. In this game, it doesn't really matter how hard you grind. You can grind and grind and grind and see absolutely no progress. Right now, as I'm recording this, I'm in war, and I decided to war for a smaller faction than Twilight Princess, and it's rough. I'm going up against some factions, and I'm putting up a lot of points, but I'm not feeling a lot of gratification from it. Sure, it's a nice break for me from playing at a higher level, but at the same time, I don't imagine it being that fun for my opponents or my faction mates when I'm one of the only people who can hit certain teams, or I'm defending and I'm one of the last people standing and they're waiting on me to finish the match, either by win or by loss. We are currently in a position to get either 500 war tokens, or if we push, we might get 700 war tokens. But all the same, it's such a marginal amount for being around the 30th faction in a 16 region war. What's even more ridiculous to me is that only 16 factions will be guaranteed a war pool this war. And in a 16 region war, that's basically saying only the top ranking faction in each region will get a pull. That's if you average it out between all the regions that are in this cross-regional war. In my opinion, that number should be at least doubled, or probably more, because the players playing at a high level don't need war pulls as much as those who are in a smaller faction. Most pulls are going to be dupes anyway, especially on this bad war wheel. Thank you again for watching and listening to my video.